So the event tonight was organized by two of our faculty and staff at Santa Fe Community College, Amna Nayar and Emily Stern. They're going to say a few words about the process, and then I'm going to introduce the panel.
Again, Assalamu alaikum, meaning peace be upon everybody. This is a Muslim greeting. And thank you. I want to thank the President, the Mayor, of course, the President Diversity Advisory Committee who helped us organize. If the members from the President Advisory Committee can raise their hand, everybody can see them. I also want to thank businesses who donated this food for us. It's from New York Daily. We have from Donut Mart. We have from Cafe Istanbul and from Yasmin's Cafe. So thank you very much for all. Just requesting everybody, please, you all have cards and pens. If you don't, please ask questions. If you're running out of ideas, there's a PowerPoint running in the back that will give you some material to think about. But please, this is the time we really want this 1 hour and a half really useful. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Emily Stern, and I'm the coordinator for the Center for Diversity and Integrated Learning, and I'm very grateful that all of you came out today. There are going to be folks who are going to be walking around, putting questions up throughout the event. So if the folks who will be collecting questions could please raise their hand. All right, so there are a few folks, and so they'll be keeping an eye out. You can hold one up and they will gather those throughout. And I also wanted to thank the Higher Education Center for their generosity and hosting this event. Thank you so much. And yeah. And we'd also like to thank our OIT department for all their hard work. Okay. So I'm going to welcome President Grisham back up here to introduce our wonderful panelists.
Thank you, Amna and Emily, and to the members of the President's Diversity Advisory Committee for organizing this event. I'm going to introduce the panel. We've got a distinguished panel with some incredible backgrounds. I think it'll be very interesting to hear about them. First, I'd like to, and I hope I don't mess up the names too much. Imam Shafi Abdul Aziz, introduce yourself. Imam Aziz is a native of Kenya, currently serving the community of Islam as Imam of the Islamic Center of New Mexico and Director of the Islamic Leadership Council of New Mexico. He was educated in Islamic Studies through Maya Al-Islamiyya College in Mombasa. Is that close? He went on to serve all over the world. He spent time as Imam and head administrator of the Windhoek Islamic Center in Namibia, the African Muslim Agency in Kenya. And he's been in the United States, coming here, I think, since 2009. Abbas Akil. Abbas is the president of the Islamic Center of New Mexico, and he's a Sandia Lab retiree. He worked at Sandia Labs for over 20 years. Before that, he worked at the Public Service Company of New Mexico. He's a licensed professional engineer. He and his wife have lived in New Mexico for the 44 years, and he's the proud owner of a Toyota Prius, his 5th one. We're big on sustainability here in San Diego. Dr. Christopher Adam has taught English for the last 15 years. He's been a student of religion for most of his life. He studied Hinduism on the banks of the Ganges, Buddhism in the Himalayas, and Christianity in both Christian heritage lands of the West and the Middle East, where it originated. But that's also where he learned about Islam and where he decided to accept Islam as his faith after 10 years of study. He's highly involved with interfaith dialogue and community outreach with the hope of demystifying Islam for those who know little about it and want to understand more. He prays at the Islamic Center of New Mexico in Albuquerque. Sabiha Mashallah. She holds a master's degree in biochemical sciences, and they have owned jewelry businesses in Santa Fe for 27 years. Miriam Salas is biracial from Ohio. She's lived in Dubai for 15 years, went to medical school in Dubai, but returned to America in 2008 and got married. She completed her residency in internal medicine from UNM. Currently, she's doing primary care and HIV primary care while waiting to complete her fellowship in infectious diseases at UNM. We have two representatives from the FBI. We have Derek Fuller, who's an assistant special agent in charge of criminal programs. And we have Javier Almodovar, a supervisory special agent with the White Collar Crime Squad. And then we also have Shamara Henderson, who is the Smart on Crimes Assisted U.S. Attorney. So I'm going to turn it back over to Emily and Amna, but let's thank our panel for being here tonight.
Thank you so much. So we wanted to begin with asking each of you to please introduce yourself, specifically why you wanted to come today and participate in this panel. Maybe like a minute or two for each of you to just talk about what inspired you to show up to this conversation. There's a microphone on the table, and there should be, yes. Perfect.
It's on. Everyone can, oh, now it is on. I'd like to start off by saying Assalamu alaikum, that this is a Muslim greeting, but before I do that, I just want to clarify something. Jesus orders his disciples 7 times in the Gospels to say peace upon you to each other. When you enter someone's house, when you come across each other, and he uses that greeting. And anyone know what Jesus' native language was? Aramaic. In Aramaic, it's shalom. In Arabic, it's salam. In Hebrew, it's shalom. So when I say this, I'm not saying it to you as a Muslim to a non-Muslim. I'm saying it to someone of any Abrahamic background, whether it be Judaism or Christianity. Shalom aleichem is part of the Hebrew language, and it's a greeting there, and it's part of the heritage of Christianity. And you still see this. Any of you who attend Catholic Mass at the end, when you say peace to each other, that is reflecting what Jesus has ordered his disciples to do. So on that note, salam. I'm interested in Islam through language. There are a couple discrepancies here, but one of them is that for the last 6 years at UNM, I've taught English, linguistics, and national security studies in various capacities. And it's really language that brought me to this knowledge, studying the Bible in its original languages, and the Middle East to study Aramaic, where it's still spoken in some places, and to learn Arabic and learn languages. And then see all these similarities that we don't grow up thinking of as similarities, like this whole thing about why do people say salam to each other? Why do people pray face down in Islam? Why do they do that weird thing? Well, if you look at the book of Joshua, for example, Joshua prays on his face after the great victory at Jericho. Moses prays on his face. Abraham prays on his face. Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane prays face down. And this is really something that when we talk about demystifying, it's just looking at the text and looking for the similarities, because we hear about the differences every day. The differences are there. We know they're there. But the similarities are fascinating. Why do those of you who came in and watched us pray a little while ago in the other room, why did many of us take our shoes off? Well, this is something that, again, Joshua did. This is something that Moses did. This is something that's repeated throughout the Bible. Why do Muslims wash their feet in sinks before they pray? Well, this is something that is described in Exodus, making the basis for Levites to wash their hands and feet in before prayer so it could be pleasing to God. So it's all these things that really are similar that brought me, that gave me this interest in learning more about Islam. I started reading the Bible in its original language. Shir HaShirim, or the Song of Songs, is rhymed and metered. And I started learning the Quran in Arabic and seeing how the whole thing is rhymed and metered. It's like Song of Songs for the entire Bible. And that kind of interested me. So even before I had any interest in becoming a Muslim, I just liked hearing it. I liked reading it. I liked learning the language and kind of getting this cool sound that I was getting from it and attending prayer and all that. I hope to be able to answer for you guys today is questions about these similarities. Why do Muslims worship a God called Allah? What does this actually mean? Well, again, what language did Jesus speak? Aramaic. Anyone know what the Aramaic word for God is? Allah. God is an English word. It's a Germanic word. German Gott, English God. These are things that Germanic languages weren't involved in the composition of holy texts 2,000 years ago, and none of Jesus' disciples were Germanic people. None of them were Goths or Germans or Anglo-Saxons. So they were people who spoke Semitic languages. Words like Allah for God were what people used. So when you hear Muslims say, this is the God of Abraham, you look at the Quran and say, okay, well, there's a whole book dedicated to Joseph, a whole book dedicated to Mary. There's Abraham all over the place, Moses all over the place. It is a tradition within the same lineage, and this is something, again, that we're told to distinguish. We're supposed to differentiate, but the more you learn about it, the more fascinating these similarities are, the more in the common heritage. I'll leave you with one thing to think about. Christianity itself used to have a division of 3 parts: homoousian, heterousian, and homoousian. Anyone can tell me what hetero means? Different. Anyone can tell me what homo means? Same. Heterousian Christians for the first 4 centuries, or were about half of the community, believed that Jesus was the Messiah, but not equal to God. Homoousian Christians believed Jesus and God were the same, hence homo versus hetero. Even Constantine, the first Christian emperor, was not a homoousian Christian who believed Jesus was equal to God. And this is something, I know, I'm going way too long. This isn't about me. Islam is part of that branch of the Christian tradition, the one that we've lost touch with in the West, the heterousian tradition. And it's not something that is night and day difference. It's something where there is a little difference in when we say Jesus is the Christ, he's the Messiah. Al-Masih in Arabic, we're acknowledging a lot of things in common. There are a few points where we differ, and that's where I hope we can have more discussion. Thank you again, and assalamu alaikum.
Imam Shaf is here. He said that I'm a leader of a mosque. Yes, I'm here for 3 reasons. One, I want to introduce myself to you, because some of our community members says he's not accessible. So now you can access me. Secondly, we are here for dialogue. And we are here to reassure the community that this is our community. We don't just have a half share, but full share. And so let's talk, let's dialogue, and let us live together. Let us find a way of benefiting one another, regardless of our faith, regardless of our religion. This is why I'm here. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm here because Imam Shafi is here. But actually the other reason is perhaps I can give you a little bit of the diversity of our religion, Islam. I was born in India. I was born a Muslim. But having grown up in India, this is an amazing experience because here you have religions it's a very homogeneous country. It's made up of Hindus, Sikhs, Muslims, Christians, Jews. In fact, some of the oldest communities of Jews and Christians date back to the time of Christ. So having grown up in that environment, it gives you a different perspective on your own religion, because there's nothing new that Islam could bring to India that Hindus did not know for 2,500 years. So it's a different perspective than the other Muslims who come from the Middle East, who are really exposed to only 1 or 2 religions. So that is one of the reasons I wanted to be here, to show you the diversity of a different perspective of Islam. And the other reason, of course, is to clarify and help clarify, if I can, all the misunderstandings that have prevailed and come to being, everything that the mayor mentioned, the presidential dialogue that's going on right now, literally the marginalization of Islam that's happening. So if I can help in any way clear that misunderstanding, I would be very happy. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Derek Fuller, and I was introduced earlier. I'm the Assistant Special Agent in charge of the FBI here in New Mexico, primarily in charge of the criminal division. And that includes a lot of things such as white-collar crime, drugs, and violent crime. But one of the most important aspects of my job is also civil rights and hate crimes. And that's why we're here, is to put a face to the organization, learn from everyone here as to what you might be going through. And if something does occur, it's not like you're reaching out to somebody that you don't know. It's our organization, and here will introduce himself, but he's in charge of our civil rights squad, who those types of investigations, and we're just here to learn. Thank you.
I'm Javier Almodovar. I'm a special agent. And why I'm here, maybe be here. No, I'm just kidding. But I do. That is one reason. But like I said, I supervise the white collar and civil rights program, so I'm here to help answer any questions. We do get a lot of calls on different issues. Sometimes we have to clarify that civil rights is not necessarily that's not a civil right. That's usually an assault or so we also want to make that distinction. Thank you.
My name is Shamara Henderson. I am the Smart on Crime Assistant United States Attorney for the District of New Mexico. So essentially what that means is that I'm a federal prosecutor that also does outreach with the community, working on prevention, intervention, and reentry issues. One of the things that I also do is I work with the different communities in the state of New Mexico. And the reason why the U.S. Attorney's Office wanted a representative here tonight is because I'm sure you have all heard many times U.S. Attorney's offices across the country and the Department of Justice will actively and intentionally pursue legal action and anything that threatens this country's security or safety. That is a common thing that you hear today. But just as important, and probably what is not heard as often, unfortunately, is that every U.S. Attorney's Office and the Department of Justice also accidentally defends the civil rights of every member in our community. The Constitution and the rule of law protects everybody, no matter the race, religion, nationality. The beautiful things that make this community diverse needs to be protected. So the U.S. Attorney's Office takes prosecuting civil rights, or more specifically hate crimes in this case, very seriously. And I wanted to make sure that you all are very well aware that the U.S. Attorney, Damon Martinez, takes this seriously. And we will make sure that we answer any questions about what we do to prosecute hate crimes in the District of New Mexico. And part of that is also working with local law enforcement and our partner, the FBI. So I just wanted to briefly note that the Violent Section Sergeant Craig Ernst is also here from the Santa Fe PD in support of this event tonight as well. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. Peace and mercy of Allah be on all of you. Thank you. This is a small effort on our part. I'm a nobody, just a Muslim member trying to make my voice be heard, that we come in peace, we'd like to meet in peace and coexist. I've been in New Mexico longer than I've been in India. And went to Catholic school, Catholic college, and we just like Brother Abbas said, we have all different, we have Parsis, Christians, everyone. And I've had basically not many complaints, or not any complaints actually, because Mexico is a house to me. It's been my home for my children, and we are very much Americans here, and we just want to smile at y'all, and y'all should smile at us back. Thank you.
Hate standing up. I don't have to stand up? All right, I'm gonna sit. I'm gonna lean forward. So, I've Miriam Salas. I like to confuse people with the name because when they hear that they're meeting Dr. Salas, they're waiting for somebody Hispanic, and then they see me and they're like, you don't Hispanic. But I mean, you could be, but I married a very tall, handsome Hispanic, and that's why I Salas. That's how I ended up in the land of enchantment as well. I got a 4 years driver's license because we were definitely going back to Dubai, and 8 years later, I got a 12 years driver's license this time. So I do primary care here in Santa Fe, and I do HIV primary care in Albuquerque. And with everything that's sort of been happening, I was like, it doesn't matter. I am who I am, and I interact with my community, and I'm, a very vocal HIV and AIDS activist, and that's all that matters. And more things happened, and certain presidential candidates didn't go away, and I was like, it's fine, I won't watch the news. I'll just do my thing, and it'll all be fine. And I'll just listen to NPR, and it'll be great. And then it's like, okay, well, maybe I won't listen to NPR, and I'll just listen to books on tape when I drive to Santa Fe every day, and it'll be fine. And it occurred to me that I was going about it the wrong way. The answer wasn't to just keep shutting out everything that's going on. That maybe it wasn't enough to just sort of be me and be out in the community. This was a venue and an opportunity to have a voice and to actively engage people and, not just sort of let people assume that I was Muslim and maybe I was a person too and maybe it was all okay, but to come out and be like, do you have questions? Let me answer the questions for you if I can. I'm here.
Thank you all so much. So we are going to read the questions that all of you have given us, and we're just going to alternate.
Okay, I got the best question actually. And the question is, probably Christopher should be blamed for it. The question is, was there a reason that the men all introduced themselves first and then the women?
The microphone was closest. I'm sorry. I apologize, ladies.
Excuses.
We start with the low intelligence life first.
I'm the newest member of the community. I don't know.
All right, thank you. I have a whole bunch here. So I want to go for the one that just, okay. Well, let's continue with that with another question about women. Why do women wear the hijab? What's the significance? What role does it play?
So I feel like that's a really interesting question. And there's a lot of different ways that you could answer that question. And I'm going to let Sabiha answer probably the more the more Islamic question. But I want to say that it's probably not the best way to say, why do women wear hijab? I would say every single woman has their own reason for wearing hijab. I say that however many people are wearing headscarves or any type of head covering here today, that if you asked each one of them, they'd have a different reason. I can tell you why I wear a headscarf, which may be completely different from someone else. First of all, because it's awesome, hello, like, I never have a bad hair day, ever. My ears are never cold. Do we all appreciate this? Yeah. It takes me probably 10 to 15 minutes less time to get ready in the morning than it does for other people. The real reason I started wearing hijab when I was 9 years old, because I mentioned that I was biracial, and may Allah forgive me, but I will say that when I was 9 years old, I did not like my hair, and I thought, this is great, I don't have to deal with my hair, I'll wear a headscarf. Then, as I got older, when you do something a lot when you're younger, at some point you reach a moment in your life where you have to decide, like, are you doing this because it's easy? Are you doing it because it's a habit? Are you doing it because it's what your family expects of you? And I realized that I wear a scarf because I want to, because it's part of my identity, because I respect the part of our religion that honors women by giving them modesty and not allowing them to be objectified, and because I believe in it. So that's why I wear a scarf.
Covered most of the points, but in a very nice way. So the Quran mandates the women to wear a headscarf, just again dignifying us. It's liberating in a way because we feel very special. And according to the Quran, again, it's misjudged, misinterpreted, miss. A lot of things have been missed. The thing is that Islam not only honors us and gives us that respect, the mother, the wife, and the sister, we all have our own special rights. So when we wear a headscarf, we automatically feel that, we are dressed. And then again, we do not wear the headscarf for our husbands. So then, we can let down our beautiful hair and be still good Muslims. The headscarf signifies modesty, dignity, and again, personal choice for many people. But like when I started, I didn't learn about Islam because, as I told you, I went to Catholic school and college. So I didn't know it was mandatory. Then when someone brought it to my attention, I just felt that there's too many things to thank God for. You look around and there's so much beauty. And when I started wearing the headscarf, it just made me feel like, whatever I believe in, I can practice it. And no one forced me. My husband used to pull my scarf out whenever I wore it, but then that's another story.
I'd like to make a historical comment about this. There's a passage I'm going to read you, and you tell me if you can identify the part of the Quran it's from. For if a woman does not cover her head, she might as well have her hair cut off. But if it is a disgrace for a woman to cut her hair off and have her head shaved, then she should cover her head. Anyone recognize that part of the Quran? It's actually 1 Corinthians from the New Testament. And that's because it's Christianity which very specifically, traditionally, demanded that women cover their heads. Up until the 1924, the church had a very strong ordination on this. And when people, if you look at the history of New Mexico, if you look at the way women used to dress in New Mexico, the older women used to cover their heads, and all women used to cover their heads when they went to church. This is actually much stronger language in the Quran. We talk about the mandate in the Quran. The Quran says, cover yourself, be modest. And it's a little bit vague. And the reason it's a bit vague is because it was originally appealing to something that was exemplified by Orthodox Judaism, that we still see today in Orthodox Judaism, which is the way women cover themselves with scarf. And the whole part of it being the Judeo-Christian heritage is something that we're not talking about today. Because recently Christianity has gone through a lot of changes. Recently, all the Western religions have, and Islam has kind of stayed in this more traditional form. People say, well, hey, it's medieval, it's this, it's bad, it's bad. Okay, but it is part of a common tradition, and this is what I think is confusing. Why do Muslims do this? Well, why does the blue bonnet lady do it? It's something that is part of the common heritage, and it's something that we should look at that way and try to understand it that way, and try to understand why it was originally written in the Bible at all. And then, listen to what the ladies have to say, because ultimately that is our last answer. And I'm sure if we asked Christians 100 years ago or 200 years ago, they might have given you a similar answer.
I will add to this, being a Muslim woman wearing hijab, I wear it because it's the order from the big boss. So when I consider he's the big boss, that's all. I say, aye, sir. But if anybody wants more detail, you already got it. And I have a display at the back. Please go and read it. There are the details about whatever questions you may have more about hijab. Another thing, not all Muslim women wear hijab. Again, that's their personal choice. Right now in this room, there are some Muslim women who are not wearing hijab. Could be many reasons. Maybe they still do not understand, or maybe they do and they have a good reason for it. So, now the next question. Okay, the next question is, how fearful is the Muslim community in Santa Fe? Brother Abbas? Well, I'm not fearful. Right here. But I may add, there have been a lot of hate crimes here, like personally in my house, somebody at my house. We have somebody sitting over here when he was at Walmart, local Walmart here in Santa Fe. Somebody looked at her and did like this. There's another employee at community college whose sister was yelled at, go back to your country. even though she's coming from Judeo-Christian background. And I don't know, from 10 generations she's here, or 20 generations, I don't know. So yes, there is fear. In fact, Emily can add to it. When Emily posted some posters about fight bigotry against Muslim, she did receive some.
There were several emails and conversations where folks expressed their gratitude and what a difference it made to walk into the space where they're going to school or where they work and see that there was support. And from what they explained, they were very relieved and grateful. So there seemed to be some heightened awareness or tension around safety.
Just add that in terms of, it's not really a fear, but it has definitely put us on guard, because the rhetoric that's going around now, while there's freedom of speech, any candidate can say what he wants to say or she wants to say, but it does put us, the Muslims, at risk. And we do feel that tension. Thankfully, New Mexico has been a very welcoming community for us. In the 45 years that I have lived here, personally, I have not come across any hate crime or any discrimination of any kind. But I think it would be rather naive on our part to take our security for granted.
Thank you. I just wanted to note also that if we don't get to everyone's questions, we're not going to throw these out. We're going to write them down and be able to use them for future programs. So just to know that. Okay, the next question. What are the genetic diseases among Muslims? Are there any specific to any of the separate sects? S-E-C-T-S.
I'm going to take that question. So I'm assuming that that question is like sort of in reference to certain genetic diseases like that run in like Ashkenazi Jewish communities. Is that, whoever asked that question, I hope if that's the sort of question you're asking. I would say that in terms of genetic illnesses, and this is not like a field of study that I have, but from what I know about genetic diseases that are prevalent in certain parts of the country, or certain parts of the world, that there are not illnesses that are particular to Muslims. There are illnesses that, there's some genetic blood diseases like thalassemia and sickle cell anemia. Those are really common in most of, or the Middle East, lots of areas in the Middle East, and sub-Saharan, northern part of Africa. But those aren't really related to like Muslim communities. That's where the malaria belt was, and those blood disorders like sickle cell anemia and thalassemia are protective against contracting malaria, and the thought is that those became endemic in those populations because those people didn't die from malaria. And so while there was malaria prevalent, those genetic disorders became more prevalent. So you see that through areas of the Middle East, there's endemic illnesses to each particular country, but those don't have genetic predispositions. To my knowledge, which may be limited, I would say that the blood diseases are probably the only things that you see higher prevalence in Muslim communities, not specific to being Muslim. It's in anybody who's in that area. Does that sound right?
Okay, next question is probably for Shamara, Javier, and Derek. Define hate crime.
I'm going to make the attorney answer the question, right? So there are several different types of statutes that a federal prosecutor is going to look to when we're trying to determine whether or not we can prosecute hate crimes. First one that I would probably focus on the most, and it's actually the most recent act enacted by Congress just in 2009, is the Shepherd-Bird Hate Crimes Prevention Act. And there's a lot of things that are required for us to be able to prosecute under this. So I'm glad that question was asked. It's my goal to definitely try to educate the community on what it is that we have to be able to prosecute these crimes. So under this particular act, I have to have a willful conduct of violence or willful violent conduct. So we're talking about some kind of bodily injury or an attempt to create bodily injury with a firearm or other type of dangerous weapon. Second to that is that it's committed because of an actual or perceived characteristic of any person. Committed because of is a pretty strict standard. That basically means that the only, well, not want to say the only reason, but the main reason for why that person was attacked was because of their actual or perceived race, color, religion, national origin, gender, sexual orientation, gender identity, or disability. So that's one of those things that, you know, we often have a hard time explaining. I think that's why one agent was saying earlier, just because somebody was hit doesn't get a hate crime. They have to be hit because of their race, their religion. So a lot of the times when the FBI or local law enforcement comes to me and says, I think we have a hate crime, the first thing I'm going to say was, did this person say anything that suggested that this person, because of their race or national origin, are they a part of a group that would suggest that they feel this type of way about a particular person, their race, national origin, religion, those types of things. So we're looking for the surrounding evidence of what that person might have said, where that action occurred, that kind of thing, to ensure that that person wasn't just assaulting someone because they felt like assaulting someone at the time. And I think that that's one of those that you have that knee-jerk reaction. Well, if someone was wearing a hijab and they're assaulted, then clearly they're assaulted because they're Muslim. But we have to be able to prove this beyond a reasonable doubt in a court of law. So we have to be able to prove that was the reason why under this act. And my office has been successful in prosecuting this. So I don't want you to think that it's impossible. Office, attorney's office in Albuquerque actually prosecuted the very first case under the statute in the entire country, in United States versus Beebe, where a cognitively disabled Navajo gentleman was branded with swastikas by 3 gentlemen in the apartment, and fortunately for us, they recorded it on their cell phones, so that was great evidence for us. They also wrote things like white power, KKK, and had things associated about white pride in their apartment that we were able to use to show their intent in that case. So it's definitely something, again, that we take very seriously, and we're very proud to be the first office in the country to actually move forward under, again, this relatively new statute. But one of those things that we're constantly trying to do, that we're educating the community about, is that we have to actually be able to prove the reason for the attack. We also have the Criminal Fair Housing Act, which is, what comes to my mind is cross burnings in front of a house. Something that you're doing in front of a person's home that is a clear indication that you're attacking their house because of their race, religion, national origin. So cross burnings is kind of the obvious indicator for that. Our third one is interference with federally protected activity. A lot of the kind of cases that come to mind are when someone would put up a noose at public education. They attempt to scare people, particularly African Americans, from being able to go to a school. Something that they're using in a way to show that they do not want you to be able to engage in this federally approved activity, which is your right to engage in because of race, national origin, that kind of thing. The fourth, and probably most common that you've heard in the news recently, is the Church Arson Prevention Act. So of course what comes to mind in this is mosque arson, bombings at different churches, synagogue shootings, that kind of thing. So that's our fourth tool that we would use to move forward to prosecute hate crimes.
Thank you so much. Okay, the next question. What can individuals outside of Islam do to help to stop the spread of ignorance and hatred toward the Muslim communities?
As you continue to learn more about Islam and you learn more about these similarities, share that knowledge with people. remind people, what is the Virgin Mary wearing? Is she wearing something that is antithetical to Christianity, or is that, an important connecting point historically, if not at present, at least historically? If this thing about Muslims praying face down seems weird to someone, and you're familiar with Jesus praying in the Garden of Gethsemane face down, mention that to them. Demystify as much as you can with the knowledge you have. Every one of you is here because you want to grow in your knowledge. And that means you're going to continue to grow in your knowledge. You might have listened to an audiobook on the way here that was talking about Islam, or you might have heard some news this week or something like that. That information you have, and make those connections with people who refuse to see the similarities, people who want to talk purely about division. The divisions are there because they are there. There are differences. There are substantive differences in every religion. But at the same time, if you know these commonalities, and some people don't, bring that to their attention. That does help. It gets people to think twice when they talk about things being the difference between night and day.
It's unfortunate that American value on trial. It's unfortunate. Mighty America has sold herself to be the greatest in the world. Until today, we Americans say that we are the superpower. We promote education, this is what we say. I want to repeat that value now is on trial. There are some leaders and some individuals who are selfish, full of ego. They are haters. They don't want to see us living together as Americans. They want to see us together traveling in the world freely as world community. They don't want to promote peace for some selfish reasons. Let's face it. Any affliction to a Muslim, to Islam, any harm is also affliction to you. Preaching hate, inciting people, causing war, acts of terror that are done by a Muslim, a Christian, or a Jew, by an atheist, a pagan, is never a solution. What do we do? The first thing that we should do, we should realize that we are a family. We are a brother and a sister. If the religion doesn't bring us together, then the community brings us together. If the community, if you still believe that as we sit here, some of us don't belong to this community, then at least if you're a Christian or a Jewish or a Jew, we both believe, whether you read Talmud or Bible, any Bible, whether King James Version or Revised Standard Version, American Version, whether you want to read New World Translation of the Greek original scripture of Jehovah's Witness, any, or the Book of Mormons, you will realize that we both believe, that we are from Adam and Eve, talking of Abrahamic faith. And so we need to start from the tree, from our origin. If faith doesn't bring us together, at least you are still my brother and sister, coming from Adam and Eve. Even if that doesn't send a message of that we are together, at least we are in America. We have the same constitution, we have the same bill of amendments. And so yes, we start from there. But I want to give you something. They call me a mosque leader, right? So I want to represent mosque now. You want to know what Muslims come to us come to the Islamic Center, come to the mosque, meet with an imam. It's high time that we become more gentle and generous, that you invite me for a cup of tea or coffee and talk to me about Islam. What is the problem with that? Come to the Islamic Center and ask any question that you want to ask. There's another area. This is the message of Islam. For some of us who may be scared of us. Number one, we believe that there is only one God. This God is not Muhammad. We don't worship Muhammad. So if that was part of the misconception, it's cleared. We don't worship Muhammad. In fact, we Muslims don't worship Muhammad, we don't worship Jesus, we don't worship Abraham, we don't worship Moses, we don't worship Noah. We worship one God, my God and your God, if you believe in God. God who is above all that he created, the Almighty, the all-doing, the all-able, God. Secondly, as much as I'm a Muslim, there is a verse in Quran, chapter 2, verse 156, which says, La ikraha fi din. There is no compulsion in religion. Any Christian who believes that the entire world is going to be Christians is a liar. Any Jew who believes that the entire world will be forced to be Jewish is not representing the truth. And so there is no compulsion in any religion, no matter how much you want to try. So, all Muslims, and they're imposing their Islam on American nation. In fact, they have come to impose Sharia law, right? Americans, we are smart people. Why do we even behave like that? What is the translation? What is which language does the word Sharia comes? Anyone who wants to try this? Which language? Arabic, right? What is the translation of Sharia? Law, right? Sharia, what does it mean? In English? Law, right? The closest is law. Yes, law. So why do we say Sharia law? Americans, English is our language. Law. Sharia. Learn that from me, don't forget. So we are not here to impose our religion on anybody. And we don't want to be on defensive. Why should we defend ourselves always? So please, we are here to join American society, and our faith, whether Jewish or Christians, are here to join us Muslims as a community. This leads me to the third point, and I will stop there. If you want preaching, I will convert this to preaching. The third point is that, unfortunately, we've been told to go back to our countries. Where? My wife is from Texas. Seeing her in hijab, somebody told her at Walmart, oh, where are you from? Jordan. Or she said, I'm from Texas. Unless we want to divide our country, our beloved country. Texas is another country and DC is another country, please. President, before his time is finished. What we want to do is this. We are not strangers, we are not foreigners in America. Please understand this. Even if I pick part of history, sad history of our country of slaves being brought from North Africa and West Africa, they were Muslims, most of them. And most of them kept their Islam within the bondage. Anyone who witnessed or watched our president's address in the mosque today, he also mentioned that. If slaves were brought as Muslims, we Muslims call us next time and ask us the history of Islam in America. We are going back to before slavery. Like Christians came from Europe, okay? Before Columbus, there was Islam, especially in this land. Please, let us not segregate and divide the community. Those are foreigners, indigenous. In fact, all of us are refugees, right? And all of us are foreigners, right? So refugees and foreigners builds America. Can't we style up Can't we just go to another level of talking as citizens, and if there are acts of terrorism, whether done by a non-religious, Muslim, a Jew, or a Christian, or an atheist, discuss it as a community to find a solution? So picking and choosing is not going to help the world, and picking and choosing is not going to help America. Peace, my people. We are one family. We are one community.
Vote. Everybody vote. Vote for the candidates who you are going to represent your values. Like, it's time.
There are some people just like y'all who want to be very proactive to spread the message of peace. So there's a wonderful lady, and she's not here today, from Albuquerque, Susan Alexis. So what she does is she takes 3 Jews, 3 Muslims, women, and 3 Christians, and then we sit and we dialogue. So we meet once a month, tea or coffee, and then we discuss. And then she's got a set set of questions. And then that's how one gets educated, we understand, because the media has only 3 words. There's Sharia, there's jihad, and there's hijab. And other than that, we're not Muslims, they don't know anything, you know. Islam is such a beautiful religion that it gives us so much peace within. We want to spread that word. We want to say, like, we put a hand in the ocean and we get gems every time. So nobody ever gives us a chance to even tell us what we found, you know, other than just the hijab. Why? Do we look subjugated by any chance?
Thank you very much. Since we have, I don't know how many, several questions in my hand and Emily's, I'm requesting the panelists, and I really feel sorry for that because I love all the answers. But if we could limit it to a sentence or 2. So the next question, again, I feel Imam Shah, I can answer this. Some say Muslims in the West will save the religion. Please comment.
Yes, in some ways, yes. I want to tell you that there is good everywhere. There is good everywhere. There is good in Kenya, where I'm coming from. There is good in Saudi Arabia. There is good in America. There is evil also everywhere. We have to appreciate what we have in America, inside America. Peace, security, stability, law and order, freedom that we have of interacting, dialogue, sitting together, smiling, laughing, even if we differ. With all our differences, we still consider ourselves Americans. If we promote that, and we emphasize on equality, justice, listening to one another, being together, benefiting one another, that is a prosperous country that will definitely redirect the world. But if we fight that, and we go against that, or we operate selectively, then I think we are not going to make it. Righteous or right should be perceived or should be understood as right, be condoned and supported. And evil, vices, wrongdoings also should not be condoned, should be criticized and rejected, whether done by an American or a Saudi Arabian, whether done by a Frenchman or African. Yes, it may, if we do that, it may really redirect the world. But the way things are going, our values and even our democracy is on trial. So we need to come back to our constitution, we need to come back to our Bill of Rights, as I call it. We need to come back to what made America, America. We are working very hard, for your information. Some people say, but we never saw Muslims on the streets opposing terrorism. Where do you want to see us? Who has seen me before? You haven't seen it. Anyone sitting here, not Muslims? I've been interviewed no less than 15 times. You remember the terror attack in France? I found Channel been waiting for me at the airport. How comes that you didn't see me? So we are outside there. We are outside there. Fight us. We are your brothers. You don't have any bomb with me here. Not even in my house. We are human beings like you. I don't have any. So please, yes, I think I've answered your question that yes, any country that promotes justice, equality, law and order for all will definitely be blessed, and that country will redirect the world. So Muslims can do that. They uphold to those values.
Thank you. So the next question is for the FBI folks on the panel. Would you please define what an infidel is? What is the definition of infidel? We'd like to hear from you.
Should I call myself FBI temporarily? Answer this question. Because there are some preconditions here.
I'm not going to check your ID.
This is actually a Western word. Infidel, it's from Latin, infidelis. It means non-faithful. So by anyone's perspective, someone who is not of their faith is a non-believer. But yeah, this was the word that was used by the Crusaders and by Western people trying to incite war for a very long time. It's been superimposed over Islam. The word doesn't exist. There are other words that are similar. The word that's becoming popular in Western pop culture now as well. In Islam, they use the word kafir. And that actually has related words to pagan. Anyone know what the origin of the word pagan is? It refers to a bumpkin originally, someone who's uninformed. And that's what kafir originally refers to. You see the Arabic words that are related to villages and village yoker and stuff like that. You'll see something that looks like the word kafir on there, and it refers to someone who's uninformed. So the idea is it's someone who hasn't been reached yet, someone who hasn't been informed yet. A little bit different from the Western word infidel, which means someone who refuses faith.
Thank you very much, Chris, for defining the word kafir. Because often on cars, I see the word proud to be infidel. So those people need to understand that they are proud to be not knowledgeable.
Can I just, I think the question is triggered or attracted by another misconception. Where people read Quran, 114 chapters, more than 6,000 verses, and they pick these verses of kill them all, right? If you haven't read, you have heard somebody saying. So Muslims are hiding. That is why some communities feel threatened, right? If I were to do that operation, if I were to do that, make it my mission, nobody is going to believe in the Bible. The whole of Old Testament. If I were to pick and choose such verses of war, can we do that? Is it really leading to peace? We have seen that on the internet. People killing in the Bible, and people who don't believe in Christianity are doing the same. If we were to do that, no one will go back to Talmud or any Jewish scripture. Samuel, go back to Joshua, go back to Moses, go back to Abraham. If you want to go with fighting, if I want to do that as a Muslim, I'm asking, is it going to bring peace between me, my Jewish brother, and Christian or not? So, that has not been enough to help communities live in harmony. This is the answer. There are circumstances in which this war took place in the time of prophets. There is text and context always when you read a book. This is when Prophet Muhammad was invaded by idol worshippers, together with few Muslims who believed in God. For 13 years, he never raised his hand against anybody. In fact, he sent his companions to migrate to Ethiopia. They returned back, persecution was still on. Muhammad himself left, Prophet Muhammad left Mecca to Medina, running for persecution. He ran. His persecutors followed him, pursued him. This is when God told him, fight those who fight you and do not transgress the boundaries. Quran chapter 2, verse 190. So somebody cannot take these verses and say, you see, Quran is all about war. Muhammad is there for problems. That may apply to everybody, every founding father in any country, every leader is not going to help us. I'm advising that we read the text and we go a little bit to the historic what? Reason or contributing factor to that. I just wanted to place this. I know some of you wanted to ask, but I think I've answered it.
This question, actually, you have already answered. I'm just going to read the question so the questioner would feel that we did not ignore it. There are quite a few examples of extreme violence in the Bible, and it's difficult to defend and justify. How do you defend the violent verses found in the Quran? And I believe he answered that. Next question is, and again, we have only 20 minutes left and probably 40 questions. So if we can justify. What is the difference between what is written in the Quran and what was recorded from the Hadith?
Okay, so Quran is a direct revelation of God to Prophet Muhammad, either via Angel Gabriel. Of course, Muslims, Christians, this is for you. We believe that Angel Gabriel is the Holy Spirit, according to Islam. Just for your information. So we believe in the concept of Holy Spirit, and that Holy Spirit, Angel Gabriel. He is the God's appointee who came to every prophet. Again, we believe in Adam, Noah, Abraham, Moses, Jesus, Zechariah, John the Baptist is called Yahya, Solomon, David, Jacob, Joseph. We believe in all these prophets. Only that Christian stops at Jesus and we take it further because it is a relay. We say that after Jesus came Prophet Muhammad as a mercy to all. So Quran is a direct word of God to Prophet Muhammad. What is Hadith? Traditions of Prophet Muhammad. It is the explanation of the wisdom of Quran. Explanation of the wisdom of Quran. Whoever reads Bible or Torah or Talmud understands that God communicated to his prophet, he conveyed the message, and most of the time some people could not understand. So they came to ask for explanation or definition. That explanation, it is also inspired by God, but it is called tradition of a prophet. So it is either tradition, explanation, approval, or what he did to demonstrate what God intended. That is the difference. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next question is, what would you say to a young Muslim who tells you that they are thinking about going to Syria or Iraq to fight for ISIS? And this says for Iman.
You are not imams, so let me deal with this. We are working very hard. We are working very hard as a community. We are working very hard with the arms of government. We are working with, we just hosted the FBI at the center and U.S. attorney there. We are working with media if they want to ask these questions. We are even working in prison with inmates. We are working with the community. We are working with the Center of Peace and Justice. We are working with. What we do tell them, not only Muslims, act of terrorism is all over the world. Americans, my fellow citizens, it's a high time we adopt a holistic approach to the violence and aggression and injustice that is taking place all over the world. We cannot promote these sittings of discussing only Jewish or Muslims. Or aggression and injustice is everywhere. The latest report of last year revealed that there were more violence and acts of terror within our country than outside. It's not me. Call me at night and say, where did you get this from? In fact, when our president was addressing the nation, he said, ask the media. Ask them. So we have violence and acts of terror here, not just done by Muslims. We have acts of terror everywhere in the world. You have heard what is happening in Kenya. You have heard what is happening in Uganda. Uganda. Who knows Uganda? It's a tiny country somewhere in East Africa. We have this Joseph Kony, right? Joseph Kony has been murdering and raping and killing. Our government sent at least 100 military personnel. I think it is the tiniest ever been sent outside to pursue Joseph Kony. Joseph Kony claims that he is using 10 commandments to rape and kill. There have been violence in West Africa. There have been violence everywhere. Please, what do I tell them? I will tell them no to violence. I will tell any Jew, any Christian, anyone, I will tell them no to terrorism, no to violence. This is what I always tell them. And if they don't listen, there is authority in the country. I will be the first one to report Muslim who is intending to kill my fellow citizens, regardless of their faith. I will be the first one. And so criticism and pointing fingers is not going to help us. Let us stand together. This is a global, terrorism is a global issue. It's not only Muslim, and I'm sure you have seen that. This is what I will do.
We actually have some statistics. They're coming from FBI website. They are there. And here in America, all the terrorists or the word terrorism connected to, there are only 4% terrorism crimes in this country which have the word Islam or Muslim connected to it. So it's coming from a website. The members are here if they want to add anything, but it's here on the screen. I got it from their website. Okay, this question is just agree or disagree because the person has repeated it twice. Just answer agree or disagree. The question says the real reason the West is ambivalent, confused or hostile to Muslims and the Quran is because Muslims will be the first to recognize and oppose Al-Masih al-Dajjal, the one whom the Bible calls Antichrist. Agree or disagree? You want me to read it again? All right. The real reason, quote, the West is ambivalent or confused or hostile to Muslims and the Quran is because Muslims will be the first to recognize and oppose Al-Masih al-Dajjal, who is actually Antichrist in English. So they're asking, do you agree or disagree? Just one.
Are you asking the public or Imam?
Imam Shafi'i.
That is very shallow. It's a non-issue. It's a non-issue. We know that there are issues. I can't just say yes or no. I have to add something. We know that there is a clash. There's a cultural clash or conflict between the West in general, or a country to a country. We know that. We know that there are wars going on all over the world. We know that. Some people are justifying this war. Some people are not justifying this war. That there are some issues. And so, Masih Dajjal, Antichrist, yes, Christians have that concept, we have that concept, but that is not. I think there are issues that needs to be discussed, at bigger platforms than Antichrist. No, I say no.
Thank you. All right, next question. It'd be great maybe to hear from each of you, maybe briefly a sentence or two to answer this. What is the one thing that you wish was truly understood about you as a Muslim or the Muslim religion in the dominant narrative of the media? You could even say one word or one sentence.
A focus on the similarities rather than the differences.
Not being a practicing Muslim, but I think the thing that I would like to see the most, again, kind of to restate what he just said, and I'm saying a really long sentence, I'm really sorry. The fact that the Muslim community is really no different from any other community, that the Muslim community is seeking safety, health, equal access to education, career opportunities, religious freedom, and ultimately, if you're listening, peace, right? So I wish that was more in the media than what is currently being heard.
I totally agree with her. As a mother of 3, my children don't know any other place other than New Mexico or the United States. They go to India, they're just lost. We need to live in a very, very peaceful and a safe environment, and I'm sure it's going to be beautiful for all of us. Thank you.
That we're happy, that we like being Muslim, that we are, that we really like being American too. And that those coexist. Not only do they coexist, but they work awesome together.
I think everything's been said. I think you've said very well.
2 words, not one. The first, I want to encourage Muslims in America to get out of the mosque and promote dialogues, interfaith dialogue, community dialogue, and outreach. Part of what we are going through, and I'm sure you are recording me, is caused and created by Muslims who confine themselves in the mosque. They lived in isolation and they never introduced themselves to their neighbors. That is my advice to Muslims. And I wish this reach the world. And the second part is don't live in fear. We are here, we are here, and we are here, and we will continue to be here to stay. Let us respect the law together. Let us support one another. Promote values that helps the creation of God, include environment, animals, human beings. We have more problems that we need to curb and solve together, include homeless, prostitutes, hunger, crimes. I wish if we focus on this. If we don't, invite me to Christianity. If I love it, I will come. If I don't, I will tell you, I'm fine. Invite me to Judaism. Invite me. Allow me to invite you to Islam. Just religion of God. And if you say no, God says in Quran, فَإِن تَوَلَّوْا, if they turn away, if they say no, Quran chapter 3 verse 64, فَقُولُوا شَهَدُوا بِأَنَّا مُسْلِمُونَ. Tell them, tell your community, I invited you, you have refused. Be a witness that you have a neighbor who is a Muslim who submits to God. And so, what do I want to see? I don't want to see that whenever there is a crisis, then you call Muslims. Then you show Muslims on, act of terror. This negativity is not going to help us. I want media to concentrate on commonalities and positive. Just come to the mosque and see me prostrating and record that and show it on media. I think it will help the world.
As I said earlier, I just wanted us to be here to let you know that we are part of the community. This is part of our community outreach, and we are here to protect the civil rights of everyone, regardless of your religion. And I think this is a great opportunity for other people to get in and meet as far as the different religions, and this type of outreach is going to be a first step for us to move forward. When those issues don't happen, and when we do have hatred, and we have acts of hatred that are exhibited towards anyone, feel free to come to us, and we will take a look at it and work in conjunction with the U.S. Attorney's Office to evaluate those principles to see whether they are hate crimes, but whether they're a hate crime or not. If we can't do it, our local partners are there to assist us to look at it from just an assault level. And like I said, this is just a good opportunity for us to meet you and for you to know that if you see something that's wrong, say something. Call our main number, which is 505-889-1300, and just let us know. Let us take a look at it. Whether it's related to hate crimes, whether it's related to anything you might is out of the ordinary, usually just give us a call and let us take a look at it from that aspect. This is a great opportunity. Like I said, just the fact that you folks are here is going to go a long ways towards not having any of those issues that we have to look at down the road from a criminal aspect.
The only thing I would add is if, regardless of your said, I'm Catholic, whether you're Muslim, Catholic, Christian, whatever, don't just feel like, well, I'm only going to support the Muslim or the Catholic or the Jew or whatever. If you see something wrong, report it. If there's something there, we'll look into it, and if there's nothing there, then we move on. But I feel that if I report a certain person and they come after me, you shouldn't feel intimidated. You should be. This is our country, protect, not protect everybody. You're not just protecting. We should all be one community. So protect us all.
Okay, as I said, we have lots of questions. I don't think so we will be able to answer all of them. We will provide some time to mingle and probably answer directly. I have a question about female genital mutilation. I have a question about gun owners. I have a question about jihad. And I have a question about why male in the family decide how covered men will be. I have a question for FBI. Probably I should choose that as the last question. And then Emily has one more. Okay. For FBI, and I hope I can read it correct. 9/11, Muslim communities in the states have had a disproportionate amount of fear and suspicion towards them. It is almost 15 years later. Is the US government still on Amber Alert towards our Muslim communities? How can we help to change that assumption towards our fellow citizens?
Imam Shafi said, I think Muslims have to go out in the community and just prove, hey, we're just like everybody else. I mean, that's the advice I would give. This also doesn't just happen with Muslims. There's other pockets of other people that have those similar situations, but unfortunately, the events going on in the Middle East, they're blasted at you daily, but you have to be out there, be yourself, be friendly, smile, as she said, and when there are certain things that are out there, if you believe in them, you got to go out and speak out, either for it or against it, what your point of view is. But not everyone's always gonna maybe agree with you, but as long as you can be respectful about it and not bastardize or something, I don't like your point about it. You're honest with it and respect. Most of it, you show respect, but I think you have to be out there doing events like this. Especially if you're a Muslim that feels that you're in that situation, be out in the community, you're in the community, and show pride in what you believe in, but always be.
I'll just add one thing. The Amber Alert is basically a nationwide threat level. It's not directed towards any community. It's basically a nation of us looking at all the different threat factors and them putting a level to that. So when we kind of talked about the perception to make it seem like it's related towards the Muslim community, that is not the FBI or the Department of Homeland Security or any of the organizations that have to do with setting this threat level. The threat level is based on what we perceive as the threat to the U.S. So I think a large part of that is the misconception that maybe media has to do with that, but it's not anything that the Bureau is putting out or feels.
Thank you both. Oh, yeah.
Okay. I think that the special agent in charge just kind of answered what I wanted to state, but I wanted to make it very clear the Department of Justice, the FBI, were not targeting Muslims. That is not something that any department or any one of those acronyms is focusing on. The focus is on threats to the nation's security and safety, a completely separate issue. And no one at this table, I think, would say, especially from those acronym names, we do not target Muslims. I just want to make that very clear.
Thank you. So we've actually come to the formal end of the panel. However, I wanted to ask if any of you had anything that you'd like to add before we disperse and get to spend some time in a more informal way. Anybody want to add anything that you didn't get to touch on?
I just I wanted to go back to the question about like what you would tell young people if they said that they wanted to go to Syria, or if they sort of when terrorist acts happen. That's what I would. This is the conversation I would have. Like when somebody comes to America and shoots up a bunch of people, or if those attacks happen in Paris, be like, the average, I'm going to say white, but we're going to say the average non-Muslim American, how much is their daily lives affected? After what happened in California, I want you in the audience to ask yourself how much your daily life was affected. I'm going to say that me, as a Muslim, my daily life changed dramatically. So, that always makes me question, well, if these people are saying that they're doing these acts for Islam, for Muslims, I'm like, well, a week later, my siblings were in the airport and missed their connecting flight because they were held up in airport security for hours. 3 weeks later, my sister was, cussed out in the street, for wearing a scarf. Always somehow, like a woman who's alone is cussed out by a man, and somehow, like, she's like the wrong person. But anyways, so those acts immediately affect your life, I would say, to this person. So your life as a Muslim got worse, right? Whereas the infidels, is that what we're gonna do? Is like their lives didn't change like at all. So terrorists, like what's your goal? What are you trying to do? Like, what are you doing for Islam? So you're trying to make Muslims' lives like really difficult? What are they trying to do? Maybe they want you to not feel like you can be part of American society. They want you to experience people yelling and cussing at you, or to be held up in security, or to not be able to get a job, so that you turn around and you're like, I can't be an American. I guess I should go off and like go to some other like country because I can't be part of American society. And I think that's exactly what terrorists want. That is the only thing that seems to happen at the end of those attacks. The people that are supposedly we're fighting against, nothing happens to them. All of the ramifications seem to happen to the Muslims that you're trying to help by what? And so I would say, if you think that those people, that they're doing something for you, what exactly are they doing for you? How are they making your life better? So don't buy into it. Don't buy into any of it, because they're taking a society that's beautiful and that's diverse, and they're trying to split it apart. So think long and hard. And then I would say, if we're trying to live the life of the Prophet, if I remember correctly, the Prophet had a neighbor who threw trash on him every single day he walked by. And when that person didn't throw trash on him, he asked, what happened? And that man was sick. And he went and he visited that person, because the person who was throwing trash on him was ill, and we are obligated to visit the sick. So if we're going to follow the message of the Prophet Muhammad, I would say that we need to get out and visit people.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to add anything?
On the question of subjugation, if you watch my sisters here, certainly there's no man standing behind them telling them what to do. And there dare not be a man behind them.
Thank you.
Yeah, needs to be just, and promoters of peace. I know that they're looking for news when they can't find news. We love media. Through media, we know a lot. We get it. But my special appeal and request to media, the Christian or the Jewish, he has to know that he will be responsible and he is answerable. And so I wish if we promote peace, justice, and, on all, then sometimes cooking up stories. I'm sorry to say that. And so media can make you a hero today, but tomorrow they bury you alive. Don't criticize media. Media have their rights. Know that they have helped the world to be a village in many ways by God's. But I would advise media to, concentrate only on negative aspects of. They go to Afghanistan in a village, they capture a lady in niqab, okay? And when they come to America, CNN, BBC, they tell the world that you see, this is what a Muslim woman looks like. I want to ask, is that the whole story or half-baked story? Because I have Muslim sisters here. And so picking something and then projecting it to the world that with the intention of tarnishing or just making news, the world has turned to a turmoil because of one word, just one. The history of the world, all over the world. So my appeal is I appreciate the media, but I really advise them to do just enough. To all, not only Muslims, Christians, Jewish, is good, and evil or bad will remain to be evil, whether by a Muslim, a Christian, a Jewish. I say that. Media, media, media. To media.
On the question of whether Muslims will save the West, I'm sorry, this will be the last thing I say, and I'll keep it short, believe it or not. The Westerner didn't get a chance to answer this question, and the way I see it is Westerners aren't going to save Islam by changing Islam. Islam doesn't need to be saved, it doesn't need to be changed. However, we are an important bridge that's being built. We are part of your families, and this is going to continue to happen as the fastest growing religion in the world, including the United States. You're going to come across more Muslims of Western background. You're going to interact with them in your families or in your friendships or in your jobs. And it's just important to keep in mind that a lot of us consider ourselves, me and the people I know at least consider ourselves following a newer testament. We're following what's mentioned in Acts 11:27, which is after the ascension of Jesus to heaven, there come more prophets. And this is something that we see as a revelation, a branch of the same tree. And we don't have to agree on this, but it is something where we don't see ourselves as breaking off and becoming radically, diametrically opposed to our Christian or Jewish heritage, but rather being following it in a different way, and in a way that does have a codified respect for the other Abrahamic faiths. Thank you.
Well, I want to thank all of you for coming. I've got to thank a few special people here tonight. I need to thank the President's Diversity Advisory Committee, the Center for Diversity and Integrated Learning, and the Higher Education Center. I'm glad we were able to do it here. I think the key word there is education. I learned some more things tonight. I always like to learn new things. And I want to thank you, and I'd like to ask you to join me in thanking our esteemed panel for being here tonight. And we appreciate you being here. And there may still be some food in the bag from both our donor restaurants and the East Wing Eatery, which is the student-run operation. So thank you very much, and drive safely.